Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the radar screen with growing concern. 3 massive objects had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, near Pluto's orbit. They were huge, each one at least 5 times larger than Earth's biggest battleship. "Admiral!" called Lieutenant Tom Hayes from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessels. It's in English, but the accent is strange." "Put it on the main screen," Lisa ordered. Her short gray hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes showed no fear despite the obvious threat. The screen flickered to life, showing a tall, alien creature with purple skin and 4 arms. Its yellow eyes looked down at them with obvious disgust. "I am Fleet Commander Dextar of the Hegemony Expeditionary Force. You will immediately surrender all military vessels and prepare for integration into the Hegemony Empire." Lisa stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the United Earth Space Force. You have entered our solar system without permission. State your intentions." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your system. You primitive creatures barely control your own planet. The Galactic Council has determined that humans require guidance from a more advanced civilization. Resistance will only cause unnecessary suffering. We decline your offer," Lisa said firmly. "Please leave our space immediately." "This is not a request," Dextar replied, his voice becoming colder. "To demonstrate our superiority, we will now destroy one of your installations." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, one of the alien ships began moving toward Ceres Base, the largest mining station in the asteroid belt. Lisa immediately opened a channel to all Earth ships. "All vessels, this is Admiral Carter. We have hostile aliens in the system. Ceres Base, begin immediate evacuation. All military ships move to defensive positions around Earth and Mars." At Ceres Base, Station Commander Bill Murphy was already ordering the evacuation when the alien ship arrived. 3,000 workers scrambled for escape pods as the massive alien vessel positioned itself above the station. "This is your final warning," came the alien broadcast. "Surrender now or face destruction." "This is Commander Murphy. We're a civilian mining station. We have families here, including children. Please give us more time to evacuate." The alien response was swift and merciless. A bright green beam lanced out from the ship and struck Ceres Base. The entire station, built over 20 years and home to thousands of people, simply vanished in a ball of white light. 437 people died in that instant. They had been too slow reaching the escape pods. Dr. Alex Turner watched the destruction from his laboratory on Europa. As Earth's leading expert in alien biology, he had been studying the hegemony broadcasts since they arrived. What he discovered made his blood run cold. "They're not just arrogant," he told his assistant, Dr. Carol Green. "Look at their language patterns and body language. They genuinely believe we're barely intelligent animals. To them, killing those people was like a farmer destroying an anthill." The alien fleet moved toward Mars next, where Colonel Sam Rodriguez commanded the Colonial Defense Force. Sam was a veteran of the resource wars on Earth, and he knew how to fight against superior numbers and technology. "Listen up, people," he told his officers over the comm system. "These aliens think we're primitives who will run scared after one show of force. They're about to learn that humans don't scare easy." The Hegemony landing force consisted of 5,000 soldiers in advanced combat armor. They expected to capture Mars Colony in less than 3 days. Fleet Commander Dextar watched from orbit as his troops descended to the planet's surface. "Begin the pacification operation," he ordered. Standard procedure: destroy all military installations, capture the leaders, and establish control zones around population centers. but Colonel Rodriguez had studied every piece of information about the alien technology that Earth scientists could gather from their broadcasts. The hegemony energy weapons were powerful, but slow to recharge. Their armor was strong against energy attacks, but had never been tested against kinetic weapons. The first alien patrol entered the main settlement expecting frightened civilians. Instead, they found empty buildings and an eerie silence. Then, the shooting started. Human soldiers, hidden in carefully prepared positions, opened fire with high-velocity rifles and explosive charges. The alien armor held against the first few shots, but repeated impacts began to crack the advanced material. "What is this?" demanded Hegemony Squad Leader Vexcon as his unit took cover behind a damaged building. "Their weapons are primitive chemical projectiles. How are they penetrating our armor?" The answer was simple, but devastating. Human engineers had modified their weapons to fire tungsten core rounds at extremely high velocity. While less advanced than energy weapons, they hit with enormous kinetic force. Private Jenny Walsh crouched behind a concrete barrier, carefully aiming her modified rifle at an alien soldier. She had grown up on Mars and knew every street in the colony. "Come on, ugly," she whispered. "Just a little closer." The alien stepped into her line of sight and Jenny squeezed the trigger. The tungsten round punched through the creature's armor and dropped it instantly. Around her, other human soldiers were scoring similar victories. What the hegemony expected to be a quick victory turned into a brutal urban warfare nightmare. Humans used the underground tunnel systems to move unseen. They planted explosive traps in abandoned buildings. They struck from unexpected directions and vanished before the aliens could respond. Fleet Commander Dextar watched his casualty reports with growing alarm. In the first day, he had lost 300 soldiers. By the end of the first week, that number had climbed to over 1,000. "Request immediate reinforcements," he transmitted to Hegemony Command. "Human resistance is more organized than anticipated. They show unusual tactical flexibility and refuse to surrender despite heavy losses." Dr. Alex Turner continued studying alien behavior patterns from the intercepted communications. What he discovered disturbed him even more than their initial arrogance. "They're starting to panic," he reported to Admiral Carter. "Their military doctrine is based on quick victories against enemies who surrender after losing a few battles. They've never faced an opponent who keeps fighting no matter how bad things get." On Mars, Colonel Rodriguez led a nighttime raid against the alien command post. 50 human soldiers, moving through maintenance tunnels, emerged directly underneath the hegemony base. The aliens had posted guards around the perimeter, but never thought to watch for attacks from below. By the time they realized what was happening, human soldiers were already inside their defenses. "For Ceres Base!" shouted Sergeant Mike Torres as he launched a grenade into a group of alien soldiers. The raid lasted only 20 minutes, but it destroyed the aliens' main communication array and killed their field commander. More importantly, it proved that the mighty hegemony could be hurt. News of the Mars raid spread throughout human space. On Earth, President Nicole Hayes addressed the planet from the Emergency Command Center in Washington. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice calm but determined. "We face an enemy that believes we are too primitive to defend ourselves. They destroyed Ceres Base and killed innocent people to prove their superiority. But our brave soldiers on Mars have shown that humans will never bow to tyranny, no matter how advanced the tyrant might be." The broadcast reached every human colony and ship in the solar system. Workers in the Jupiter mining stations began modifying industrial equipment into weapons. Scientists on Luna started working around the clock to develop new technologies. Children too young to fight helped by carrying supplies and messages. The hegemony had made a critical error. They thought destroying Ceres' base would terrify humanity into submission. Instead, it had done something far more dangerous. It had made humans angry. Fleet Commander Dextar received new orders from Hegemony Command. They were sending more ships and soldiers to finish the human conquest. But as he watched another patrol fail to return from the Martian surface, he began to understand what the ancient tablets had tried to warn them about. Humans were not like other species. They did not calculate odds and surrender when defeat seemed certain. They adapted, they learned, and they fought harder when backed into a corner. The hegemony had broken the oldest rule in the galaxy, and now they were about to discover why that rule existed. The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark void between star systems. It was bigger than most moons and served as the meeting place for the Galactic Council. 12 different alien species had built this station together, over 300 years ago. Today, like every month, their representatives gathered in the Great Hall to discuss important matters. Ambassador Zektar walked slowly into the council chamber. His 4 arms carried several stone tablets covered in strange writing. The hegemony representative looked worried as he placed the tablets on the central display table. His purple skin seemed darker than usual, and his large yellow eyes showed fear. "Fellow council members," Zektar began, his voice echoing in the huge room. "Our archaeological teams have made a disturbing discovery on the dead world of Kethavar. These tablets are over 10,000 years old. They contain warnings about a dangerous species." The other council members leaned forward to look at the ancient stones. Elder Vashti of the Creators spoke first. Her crystalline body sparkled as she moved. "Another extinct species trying to scare future generations with ghost stories? We have seen this before, Zektar." "No, Elder. These are not about an extinct species. They speak of a race called humans. They live in a star system called Sol, in the outer spiral arm of our galaxy. The tablets describe them as incredibly dangerous." General Krexavol laughed loudly. His massive frame shook as he stood up from his chair. The hegemony military leader was known for his quick temper and love of war. "Dangerous? We have studied this human species. They barely know how to travel between planets. They fight each other with primitive weapons. What could such backward creatures possibly do to threaten the galaxy?" Zektar touched one of the tablets with his thin finger. "The ancient Kethvarians wrote that humans never give up. They adapt to any situation. When you corner them, they become more dangerous than any predator in the known galaxy. The tablets say that humans will chase their enemies across infinite space and time to get revenge." "Superstition," Elder Vashti said with a dismissive wave. "These humans are barely more advanced than animals. Their ships use chemical rockets. They have no energy shields or quantum weapons. I doubt they could threaten a single hegemony patrol ship." The large doors to the council chamber suddenly opened with a loud hiss. A human male walked in wearing a simple blue uniform. He was average height with brown hair and friendly brown eyes. His name was Captain Jake Morrison, and he represented Earth's government. "Sorry I'm late," Jake said with a smile. "Our ship had some engine trouble on the way here. We're still working out the bugs in our new drive system." The council members looked at him with curiosity. This was only the 3rd time a human had visited Nexus Prime. Jake seemed completely relaxed, despite being surrounded by some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Captain Morrison," Elder Vashti said politely, "we were just discussing. Your species. Please, tell us about Earth's current situation. Jake sat down in the chair reserved for visiting species. Things are going well? We've established colonies on Mars and Europa. Our population just reached 12 billion. We're hoping to expand our trade relationships with other species. General Krexval studied Jake carefully. The human looked so ordinary, so harmless. Captain, what is your military strength? How many warships does Earth possess? We have about 200 ships that could be used for defense, Jake replied honestly. Most of them are converted cargo vessels. We prefer to focus on exploration and peaceful development rather than building weapons. The hegemony general's eyes gleamed with interest. 200 primitive ships against the hegemony's 10,000 advanced warships? It would hardly be a fair fight. And your weapons technology? Basic plasma cannons and missile systems. Nothing too fancy. We believe in solving problems through diplomacy rather than violence. After Jake left the council chamber, the members continued their discussion. General Krexval paced back and forth in front of the ancient tablets. This is perfect timing. The humans occupy a strategic position near several valuable star systems. If we establish a protectorate over them, we can use their space as a staging area for future expansion. The tablets warn against exactly this kind of thinking, Zektar said urgently. The Kethvarians believed they could easily control humans too. Their entire civilization disappeared shortly after first contact. Coincidence, General Krexval snorted. Or perhaps they died from some plague. These humans are clearly peaceful. Did you see how their captain answered every question honestly? They have no military secrets because they have no real military. Elder Vashati considered both arguments. The hegemony has successfully integrated 47 species into their empire. Most joined willingly after seeing the benefits of hegemony protection and technology. Perhaps the humans would welcome our guidance. Exactly, the general said. We offer them advanced technology, protection from hostile aliens, and membership in a galactic civilization. In exchange, they provide resources and strategic territory. Everyone benefits. Zektar picked up one of the tablets and read the ancient text again. The Kethvarians wrote that humans become most dangerous when someone tries to protect them from themselves. They called it the Great Mistake, treating humans like children who need guidance. Ancient superstition, General Krexval repeated. These tablets could be talking about any aggressive species. The description is too general to be meaningful. The vote was called 15 minutes later. 8 species voted to allow hegemony intervention in human space. 3 voted against it. 1 abstained. Only Zektar seemed truly worried about the decision. As the council members left the chamber, Zektar remained behind to study the tablets one more time. The ancient writing was clear enough. The Kethvarians had tried to save humans from what they saw as primitive violence and chaos. They had sent ships to establish order in human space. The tablets ended with a simple warning. We were wrong. They did not need our protection. We needed protection from them. By the time we understood this truth, it was too late. If others find these words, remember, never try to save humans from themselves. They will save themselves and destroy you for interfering. But the decision was already made. General Krexval was probably ordering his fleets to move towards Sol system right now. Zektar looked at the ancient stones one last time and whispered a prayer for both species. Something told him that the galaxy was about to change forever. The oldest galactic rule was simple. Some species should never be challenged. Unfortunately, the hegemony had just decided to break that rule. President Nicole Hayes stood in the underground war room beneath Washington, D.C., surrounded by her military advisors and the heads of every major government on Earth. The news from Mars was both encouraging and terrifying. Humans could fight the aliens, but more enemy ships were coming. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Hayes began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. 3 weeks ago, the hegemony destroyed Ceres Base and invaded Mars. They expected us to surrender immediately. Instead, our people have shown these aliens that humanity will not go quietly into the night. General Robert King, the head of Earth's military forces, stepped forward to address the group. "Our conventional weapons can damage their armor, but we need better technology to have any real chance. That's why I'm recommending we activate Project Blackout." A murmur went through the room. Project Blackout was Earth's most secret military program, known only to a handful of people. Dr. Frank Miller, the project's lead scientist, cleared his throat nervously. "Project Blackout has been developing quantum tunneling weapons for the past 5 years," Dr. Miller explained. "The technology allows us to bypass energy shields entirely by phasing projectiles through normal space-time. We've been waiting for the right time to test them." "I'd say an alien invasion qualifies as the right time," President Hayes replied. "How quickly can you begin production?" "The first prototypes are ready now. We can have weapons in the field within 48 hours. While Earth's leaders planned their response, Captain Tony Brooks prepared for a dangerous mission in the outer solar system. His ship, the UES Shadow, was one of Earth's newest vessels, equipped with experimental stealth technology that the aliens had never encountered. Tony's crew consisted of 20 volunteers who knew they might not survive the mission. Lieutenant Amy Foster served as his weapons officer, while Ensign Carl Davis handled the ship's advanced sensor systems. "Remember, people," Tony said as they approached the alien fleet near Jupiter. "We're not trying to win a battle here. We're gathering intelligence and testing our new weapons. Hit them hard, learn what we can, and get out fast." The Shadow approached the hegemony supply convoy using its phase shift drive. To alien sensors, the human ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence, making it nearly impossible to target. 3 transport ships and 2 escort vessels, reported Ensign Davis. "The escorts are using standard hegemony energy shields, perfect targets for our quantum torpedoes. Amy, lock onto the lead escort," Tony ordered. "Let's see what our new toys can do." Lieutenant Foster fired the quantum torpedo, watching as it phased through the alien ship's shields like they didn't exist. The weapon materialized inside the hull, enemy vessel, and exploded, tearing the ship apart from within. "Direct hit!" Amy shouted. "Their shields didn't even register our weapon." The second escort ship tried to return fire, but the Shadow was already gone, phase shifting to a new position. Within minutes, both escort vessels were destroyed, and the transport ships were fleeing in panic. "Shadow to Earth Command," Tony transmitted. "Mission successful. The quantum weapons work perfectly. Alien shields are useless against them." Back on Mars, the situation had evolved into a different kind of warfare. Commander Beth Stone had taken over from Colonel Rodriguez after he was wounded in a hegemony bombing raid. Beth was a specialist in guerrilla tactics, and she quickly adapted human strategy to take advantage of the aliens' weaknesses. "They're predictable," she explained to her officers during a briefing in the underground tunnels. "The hegemony follows rigid military procedures. They send patrols on the same routes at the same times. They establish bases using identical layouts. We can use this against them." Sergeant Mike Torres, now promoted after his heroic actions in earlier battles, nodded his agreement. My squad hit 3 of their supply depots last week. They never changed their guard schedules, even after the first attack. Beth had also made another important discovery. Hegemony soldiers were not prepared for the psychological warfare that humans excelled at. The aliens expected enemies to fight according to established rules and surrender when defeated. "We don't follow their rules," Beth told her troops. "We hit them when they don't expect it. We make them afraid to leave their bases. We show them that every day on Mars will cost them more soldiers." The psychological impact on hegemony forces was becoming severe. Fleet Commander Dextar read the daily reports with growing concern. His soldiers were reporting strange dreams, paranoia, and fear of the dark tunnels where humans might be hiding. "Request permission to use orbital bombardment," Dextar transmitted, to Hegemony Command. "The human resistance is more effective than anticipated. Ground forces are suffering from morale problems." The response from Command was swift and angry. "Negative. The planet must remain intact for colonization. Continue ground operations until resistance is eliminated. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Frank." Miller's team worked around the clock to mass-produce the new quantum weapons. Factories that had been building civilian equipment were converted to military production. Every human in the solar system seemed to understand that this was a fight for survival. Dr. Sarah Jackson, working in the Luna Research Station, made another breakthrough that would change the war. While studying captured hegemony technology, she discovered that alien ships relied on quantum computers that used a completely different architecture than human systems. "Their computers are incredibly advanced," she reported to Earth Command, "but they're also incredibly specialized. They can't adapt to unexpected situations the way human computers can. If we can introduce chaos into their systems, we might be able to shut down entire fleets." This discovery led to the development of what humans called chaos viruses, computer programs designed to exploit the rigid nature of alien technology. Unlike traditional computer viruses, these programs didn't try to damage systems. Instead, they introduced small random errors that accumulated over time. Captain Laura Wells led the first mission to test these new weapons. Her ship, the UES Ghost, approached a hegemony patrol near Saturn using the same phase shift technology that had proven so effective. "Target the flagship," Laura ordered her crew. "We need to get close enough to transmit the virus directly into their systems." The Ghost materialized next to the alien flagship for just a few seconds, long enough to fire a data burst into the enemy ship's communication array. Then it vanished again, leaving the confused aliens searching for an enemy they couldn't find. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The hegemony ships continued their patrol normally, but over the next 6 hours, small errors began to accumulate in their systems. Navigation became less accurate. Weapons took longer to charge. Communication started experiencing delays. "Their entire fleet is breaking down," reported Lieutenant Kevin Wright from the Ghost's sensor station. "They can't figure out what's wrong because the errors look like normal system wear." The chaos virus spread from ship to ship through the hegemony communication network. Within a week, alien fleets throughout the solar system were experiencing mysterious technical problems that their engineers couldn't explain or fix. Dr. Alex Turner, still studying alien psychology from Europa, noticed something important in the intercepted hegemony communications. The aliens were starting to fear humans in a way they had never feared any enemy before. "They're calling us shadow demons and ghost warriors," he reported to Admiral Carter. "Their entire military doctrine is based on facing enemies they can see and understand. We're fighting in ways they can't comprehend." This fear was justified. Human tactics continued to evolve at a pace that left the aliens constantly struggling to adapt. Commander Beth Stone's forces on Mars had learned to use the planet's dust storms to conceal their movements. They struck at hegemony bases during the worst weather, when alien sensors were nearly useless. Private Jenny Walsh, now a veteran of dozens of battles, led a squad through a particularly fierce dust storm toward an alien supply depot. The hegemony soldiers huddled inside their base, unable to see more than a few meters in any direction. "They hate this weather," Jenny whispered to her team. "Makes them feel trapped and helpless. Perfect time to remind them why they should have stayed home." The attack was swift and devastating. Human soldiers emerged from the storm like phantoms, destroyed the alien supplies, and vanished back into the swirling dust before the enemy could respond. But the most significant change was happening in human space itself. The invasion had united humanity in a way that nothing else ever had. Old enemies worked together, sharing resources and technology. Every human settlement contributed to the war effort in whatever way they could. Children in the orbital habitats helped manufacture components for quantum weapons. Scientists who had spent their careers studying peaceful applications suddenly focused on military technology. Artists and writers created propaganda that inspired people to keep fighting against impossible odds. The hegemony had expected to face a divided, primitive species that would collapse after a few military defeats. Instead, they had awakened something that they were completely unprepared to handle: a unified humanity that refused to accept defeat. As news of human victories spread throughout the galaxy, other species— 6 months had passed since the hegemony invasion began, and the war had settled into a deadly pattern. The aliens controlled 3 human colonies, Mars, Europa, and Titan, but maintaining that control required enormous resources. Every day brought new reports of human attacks, sabotage, and resistance that seemed to grow stronger rather than weaker. Fleet Commander Dextar sat in his command center on the flagship Dominator, reviewing casualty reports that made his 4 hands shake with frustration. In the past month alone, he had lost over 2,000 soldiers to human guerrilla attacks. The worst part was that most of those soldiers had simply vanished, their bodies never found. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, Sub-Commander Krelvex, "we've intercepted human communication suggesting they're using our own dead soldiers for some kind of research project." Dextar's yellow eyes narrowed with disgust. "Research? What could these primitives possibly learn from our technology?" The answer to that question was becoming clear in laboratories throughout human space. Dr. Carl Johnson worked in a converted mining facility on Luna, surrounded by captured hegemony equipment and the bodies of alien soldiers. What his team had discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. "Their biology is completely different from ours," Dr. Johnson explained to his assistant, Dr. Nina Walsh. "But their technology is based on principles we can understand and improve upon. Look at this energy weapon. It's incredibly efficient, but it has a fatal flaw." He pointed to a complex crystal structure inside the alien weapon. "This focusing crystal can only fire at specific frequencies. It's perfect for penetrating the energy shields that other alien species use, but it's completely inflexible. We can build weapons that use the same energy source but fire at variable frequencies." This discovery led to a breakthrough that would change the entire war. Human engineers began building hybrid weapons that combined alien energy technology with human adaptability. The results were devastating to hegemony forces. Lieutenant Maya Davis was one of the first pilots to test the new hybrid fighter craft. The ship looked like a human design from the outside, but inside, it used modified hegemony energy systems that were more powerful than anything Earth had ever built. "Control, this is Lightning 1, Maya reported as she engaged a patrol of hegemony, fighters near the asteroid belt. "Beginning attack run." The alien pilots expected to face primitive human ships with chemical rockets and basic weapons. Instead, Maya's fighter moved with impossible speed and agility, its hybrid propulsion system allowing maneuvers that defied everything the aliens knew about human technology. Her first shot destroyed a hegemony fighter instantly. The weapon used the aliens' own energy technology, but fired at a frequency their shields couldn't block. The second fighter tried to flee, but Maya's ship was faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. "Lightning 1 to control," she reported with satisfaction. "2 targets destroyed. These new ships are incredible. It's like flying with superpowers." The psychological impact on hegemony forces was immediate and severe. Their technical superiority, the foundation of their entire military strategy, was being turned against them by an enemy they had considered barely intelligent. On Mars, Commander Beth Stone had evolved her resistance tactics to take advantage of the new weapons and technology. Her forces no longer just hid in tunnels and conducted hit-and-run attacks. They had begun launching coordinated operations that required the aliens to commit large numbers of troops. "Today we take back the northern settlement," Beth announced to her assembled officers. The meeting took place in a vast underground complex that the humans had carved out of the Martian rock using mining equipment. Sergeant Mike Torres, now wearing armor stripped from dead alien soldiers and modified for human use, nodded his approval. "My squad has been watching their patrol patterns for weeks. They're stretched thin, trying to guard all the territory they've captured." The attack began at dawn with a coordinated assault on 3 hegemony outposts simultaneously. Human soldiers, now equipped with hybrid weapons and captured alien armor, moved with confidence and skill that amazed their enemies. Private Jenny Walsh led her squad in a frontal assault on the main alien base. She wore a modified hegemony combat suit that enhanced her strength and speed while providing protection against energy weapons. "Remember," she called to her troops as they advanced through the Martian dust, "they can't adapt like we can. Stick to the plan and watch each other's backs." The battle was fierce, but brief. Hegemony soldiers, demoralized by months of constant human attacks, broke and fled when faced with determined resistance. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had successfully retaken territory from the aliens. But the most significant changes were happening in human society itself. Dr. Kevin Wright, working in a research station hidden in the asteroid belt, had begun experimenting with modifications to human biology that were inspired by alien technology. "We've learned to copy their weapons and their ships," he explained to his team of volunteer researchers. "But what if we could improve human capabilities directly? Make ourselves stronger, faster, more resilient?" The first volunteers for human enhancement were soldiers who had been severely wounded in the fighting. Private Rick Murphy had lost both legs to an alien energy blast on Mars. Now he walked on mechanical limbs that were stronger than his original legs and could interface directly with his nervous system. "It's strange at first," Rick explained to other wounded soldiers who were considering the procedure. "But after a few days, the new legs feel completely natural, and I can run faster and jump higher than I ever could before." Dr. Wright's team had also developed neural implants that allowed humans to interface directly with captured alien technology. Captain Dan Foster was one of the first pilots to receive the experimental implants, which allowed him to control hybrid ships using thought alone. "It's like the ship becomes an extension of your body," Dan reported after his first test flight. "I can react to threats faster than any normal pilot. The aliens' computer-controlled ships can't keep up with human intuition enhanced by their own technology." These enhanced humans began appearing on battlefields throughout the solar system, and their impact on alien morale was devastating. Hegemony soldiers reported fighting enemies who seemed to have supernatural abilities, humans who could lift massive weights, run at impossible speeds, and predict attacks before they happened. Sub-Commander Krelvex transmitted increasingly desperate reports to Hegemony Command. "The humans are no longer the same species we invaded. They're modifying themselves using our own technology. Our soldiers are terrified." The fear was justified. Enhanced human soldiers could tear through alien battle armor with their bare hands. Human pilots with neural implants could outfly computer-controlled ships. Human commandos with sensory enhancements could track alien patrols through complete darkness. Captain Helen Ross commanded one of the new hybrid warships that had begun patrolling the outer solar system. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was built using a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology that made it more powerful than most hegemony cruisers. "Contact bearing 270, reported her enhanced sensor officer, Lieutenant Greg Turner. His neural implants allowed him to process sensor data at superhuman speeds. 3 hegemony destroyers attempting to reach the supply convoy near Jupiter. "Intercept course," Helen ordered. "Let's show them what humans can do when we put our minds to it." The battle was completely one-sided. The Retribution moved like a living thing, its hybrid weapons tearing through alien shields and armor with ease. The human crew, working in perfect coordination through their neural links, responded to threats faster than the aliens could track. Within minutes, all 3 hegemony ships were destroyed. Not a single human vessel was even damaged. News of these victories spread throughout human space, inspiring even greater efforts from the civilian population. Factory workers volunteered for enhancement procedures that allowed them to work longer and more efficiently. Scientists with neural implants collaborated in ways that accelerated research and development. But perhaps the most significant change was happening in the minds of ordinary humans. Dr. Alex Turner, still studying the war from his laboratory on Europa, noticed something remarkable in the communications between human settlements. "They're not just fighting to survive anymore," he reported to Earth Command. "They're fighting to win. The entire species has shifted from defensive thinking to offensive planning. This shift was evident in the newest human military projects. Instead of simply defending their territory, human commanders had begun planning attacks on hegemony forces. Outside the solar system, enhanced human soldiers trained for combat in alien environments. Hybrid ships prepared for long-range missions into enemy territory. The Galactic Council received reports of these developments with growing alarm. Elder Vashati of the Creators reviewed intelligence data that seemed impossible to believe. In 6 months, the humans have gone from a barely spacefaring species to a military force that rivals our most advanced civilizations, she reported to the Emergency Council session. "Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented." Ambassador Zektar, who had warned about the ancient tablets from the Admiral Ryan Clark, stood before the assembled commanders of humanity's first interstellar fleet. 8 months had passed since the hegemony invasion began, and the war had reached a turning point that no one could have predicted. Human forces now controlled their own solar system and were preparing to take the fight to the enemy. "Operation Vendetta begins in 72 hours, Admiral Clark announced, his weathered face showing the determination of a man who had lost friends at Ceres. "Base, we're going to show the hegemony what happens when you attack innocent people." The fleet gathered near Pluto consisted of 30 hybrid warships, each one more advanced than anything the aliens had ever faced. Captain Laura Wells commanded the lead reconnaissance vessel, the UES Hunter, which would scout ahead using the phase shift technology that had proven so effective. "Our target is the Hegemony Supply Depot at Proxima Station," Admiral Clark continued. "Intelligence suggests it's lightly defended because they never expected humans to develop interstellar capabilities this quickly." Dr. Kevin Wright, now the EO head of Human Enhancement Programs, had volunteered to accompany the fleet as both a scientist and a soldier. His own modifications included neural implants that allowed him to interface with alien technology and physical enhancements that made him stronger than any baseline human. "Remember," he addressed the enhanced soldiers who would lead the ground assault. "We're not just fighting for territory. We're gathering intelligence and capturing technology. Every piece of alien equipment we take makes humanity stronger." The journey to Proxima Station took 3 days using the new hybrid drive systems. Captain Laura Wells and her crew aboard the Hunter moved ahead of the main fleet, using their stealth capabilities to observe the enemy base without being detected. 30 ships in orbit, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, now serving as Laura's tactical officer. "Mostly cargo vessels with light escort. They're completely unprepared for attack." Laura smiled grimly as she watched the alien base through the Hunter's enhanced sensors. "They still think we're trapped in our own solar system. Time to prove them wrong." The attack began with the Hunter materializing directly above the enemy command center. Laura's ship fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes, each one phasing through the station's shields to explode inside critical systems. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark," came the transmission as the main human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. "Execute Operation Vendetta. Show them what humanity can do." The battle was completely one-sided. Hegemony ships, designed to fight enemies who followed predictable tactics, couldn't adapt to human unpredictability. Enhanced human pilots, their reflexes boosted by neural implants, flew circles around alien vessels that relied on computer targeting. Captain Dan Foster, now completely integrated with his ship's systems through advanced neural links, led a squadron of fighters against the enemy escort vessels. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge energy beams that should have been impossible to avoid. "This is Phoenix Leader," Dan reported as he destroyed his third enemy fighter. "Their targeting computers can't track our flight patterns. We're moving too randomly for their systems to predict." Within 2 hours, the entire Hegemony force at Proxima Station was either destroyed or in full retreat. Human ground forces led by enhanced soldiers who could survive in the vacuum of space for short periods captured the station and its valuable intelligence data. Dr. Wright examined the captured alien computers with fascination. "They've been sending regular reports back to Hegemony Command," he told Admiral Clark. "But look at what they're saying about us." The alien reports described humans as impossible enemies who violated every known principle of military science. Hegemony commanders reported that human forces seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating effectiveness, and vanish before counterattacks could be organized. "They're calling us ghosts and demons," Admiral Clark said with satisfaction. "Good. Fear is a weapon we can use." But the most valuable intelligence came from captured hegemony strategic plans. The aliens had been preparing to use psychological warfare against human populations, broadcasting messages designed to break human morale and convince them to surrender. Dr. Alex Turner, now working directly with the military command, analyzed these psychological warfare programs with his enhanced cognitive abilities. What he discovered led to a breakthrough that would change the entire war. They're using fear-based conditioning that works on every known species, he explained to the command staff. But humans respond differently to fear than other aliens do. Instead of breaking our morale, their tactics are making us angrier and more determined. This discovery led to the development of human counterpropaganda that specifically targeted alien psychology. Captain Helen Ross, now commanding a specialized psychological warfare ship, began broadcasting messages into hegemony space that were designed to exploit alien mental weaknesses. "Attention, hegemony forces," her ship transmitted on all alien communication frequencies. "You invaded our home. You killed our people. Now we're coming for you. Surrender is your only option." The messages were accompanied by recordings of human, military victories and testimonials from captured hegemony prisoners. The psychological impact on alien forces was immediate and devastating. Sub-Commander Krelvex received these broadcasts aboard his ship near the hegemony border worlds and felt something he had never experienced before: genuine terror. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were hunting hegemony forces with methodical precision. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving distress calls from 17 different hegemony outposts. They're all reporting attacks by unknown human forces." Krelvex studied the tactical display with growing horror. Human ships were appearing throughout hegemony space, striking at supply lines and isolated bases with surgical precision. Each attack was perfectly coordinated, suggesting a level of strategic planning that the aliens had never credited humans with possessing. "How are they moving so quickly?" he demanded. "Our intelligence reported that humans had no interstellar capabilities." The answer lay in the hybrid technology that human scientists had developed. Dr. Carl Johnson's team had not only copied alien faster-than-light drives, but had improved upon them using human engineering principles. Alien FTL systems are incredibly efficient but completely predictable, Dr. Johnson explained to his research team. They follow fixed routes through hyperspace. Our modified drives can take shortcuts through folded space-time that alien computers can't calculate. This technological advantage allowed human forces to strike deep into hegemony territory before the aliens could respond. Enhanced human commandos, capable of surviving in hostile environments without life support, infiltrated alien bases and gathered intelligence that revealed the true scope of hegemony operations. Lieutenant Greg Turner led one such infiltration mission to a hegemony intelligence facility near their core worlds. His enhanced senses allowed him to move through the alien base without triggering security systems designed to detect normal life forms. Intel package secured, he transmitted to his extraction team. "The aliens have detailed files on 47. Different species, most of them surrendered after minimal resistance." The captured intelligence revealed something that shocked even experienced human commanders. The hegemony had conquered dozens of civilizations using exactly the same tactics they had tried on humanity. Most species had surrendered after a single demonstration of alien superiority. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Admiral Clark realized as he reviewed the captured data. "We're fighting for every species the hegemony has enslaved. They've been doing this for thousands of years." This revelation transformed the war from a simple conflict over territory into a crusade for galactic freedom. Human forces began making contact with enslaved species, offering them technology and support to resist hegemony rule. The first species to join the human resistance were the Kethvarians, the same race that had left warnings about humanity in ancient tablets. The few survivors of their civilization had been living as slaves in hegemony labor camps for millennia. "We remember the warnings our ancestors left," transmitted Elder Sithvar from a liberated Kethvarian colony. "They said that humans would one day free the galaxy from oppression. We are honored to fight beside you." Human enhancement technology was shared with willing alien allies, creating mixed units of enhanced humans and liberated aliens who fought with unprecedented coordination. These combined forces proved even more effective against hegemony troops, who had never faced enemies who could adapt and innovate in real time. Captain Tony Brooks led one such mixed unit in an assault on a major hegemony fortress world. His team included enhanced humans, liberated Kethvarians, and members of 3 other species who had joined the resistance. "The fortress shields are powered by a central generator," reported his Kethvarian tactical advisor, whose natural telepathic abilities had been enhanced with human neural implants. "If we can overload it, the entire defensive grid will collapse." The assault was a masterpiece of combined tactics. Human soldiers provided the raw aggression and adaptability, while alien allies contributed specialized knowledge and unique abilities. The fortress, designed to withstand conventional attacks, fell within hours. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Nexus Prime under circumstances that none of the member species had ever faced before. For the first time in galactic history, a member species was losing a war against what they had originally classified as a primitive civilization. Elder Vashati of the Creators studied the holographic displays showing the current state of the war with something approaching disbelief. Red markers indicated human-controlled territory, which now extended deep into what had been hegemony space just 18 months ago. "The situation has moved beyond crisis," she announced to the assembled representatives. "According to our latest intelligence, human forces now control over 40 star systems and have liberated 17 enslaved species." Ambassador Zektar, who had warned about this exact scenario from the beginning, felt no satisfaction in being proven right. The ancient tablets had predicted everything that was happening, but even they hadn't prepared him for the speed of human expansion. "The reports from hegemony territory are increasingly disturbing," he said, activating a series of intercepted communications. "Human soldiers are no longer limited by the biological constraints of their original species." The recordings that followed sent waves of shock through the council chamber. They showed human soldiers surviving in hard vacuum, lifting objects that weighed several tons, and moving with speed that seemed to violate the laws of physics. General Krexavol appeared via secured transmission from his flagship, his 4 arms gesturing frantically as he tried to explain the impossible situation his forces faced. "The humans are not the same species we invaded," he reported, his voice carrying a note of hysteria that council members had never heard from a hegemony commander. "They modify themselves with our own technology, but they improve it beyond our understanding." Elder Vashati leaned forward, her crystalline features reflecting the light from the holographic displays. "Explain these modifications, General." "They integrate captured technology directly into their biology," Krexavol replied. "We have reports of human soldiers with mechanical limbs that are stronger than our battle armor. Human pilots who interface directly with their ship's computers. Human commandos who can survive planetary bombardment. Sub-Commander Krelvex, now serving as Krexavol's intelligence chief, added his own disturbing observations. "The humans seem to have no limits on what they will do to themselves in pursuit of victory. They voluntarily undergo procedures that would kill most known species." Dr. Steve Garcia, working in a secret laboratory deep in the asteroid belt, was at that moment demonstrating exactly what the aliens feared. He had volunteered for the most extreme human enhancement procedures ever attempted, combining alien, biotechnology with human engineering in ways that pushed the boundaries of what could be called human. The neural integration is complete, he reported to his research team, his voice carrying undertones that suggested his vocal cords had been modified as well. I can now interface with 17 different types of alien technology simultaneously. Steve's appearance would have terrified the Galactic Council if they could have seen him. His original human features were still recognizable, but his body now incorporated alien technologies that enhanced every aspect of his capabilities. His eyes glowed with an inner light from optical enhancements. His arms could extend mechanical tools that emerged from hidden compartments. His mind processed information at speeds that rivaled the most advanced alien computers. "How do you feel?" asked Dr. Michelle Parker, his research partner and the lead scientist on the Human Modification Project. "Different," Steve replied, his enhanced senses detecting electromagnetic signatures throughout the facility. "But still human. Still angry about what they did to us." This was perhaps the most disturbing aspect of human enhancement from the alien perspective. No matter how extensively humans modified themselves, they retained their original psychological characteristics, including their capacity for revenge and their refusal to forgive those who had harmed innocent people. Captain Dan Foster, now so heavily modified that he existed in a symbiotic relationship with his ship, led a strike force against a hegemony research facility where the aliens were desperately trying to develop countermeasures against human technology. "Target acquired," he transmitted. His consciousness merged so completely with his ship's systems that it was impossible to tell where the pilot ended and the machine began. "Beginning assault on the primary laboratory." The hegemony scientists working in the facility had been trying to understand human enhancement technology by studying captured human soldiers. What they had discovered only added to their growing terror. "The modifications are not random," reported Chief Researcher Veltar in his final transmission before the facility was destroyed. "The humans are systematically removing every biological limitation that evolution placed on their species. They are becoming something that has never existed before. The destruction of the research facility eliminated the hegemony's best chance of developing defenses against human enhancement technology. But more importantly, it demonstrated that humans were now capable of striking any target in hegemony space with impunity." Elder Vashati reviewed the tactical situation with growing alarm. "Our analysis suggests that human military capabilities are advancing exponentially. If this trend continues, they will surpass our most advanced civilizations within months." Ambassador Zektar pulled up the ancient Kethvarian warnings that had started this entire crisis. "The tablets speak of humans as the species that evolution forgot to limit. We believed this was metaphorical language. Now we understand it was literal." The truth was even more disturbing than the Council realized. Dr. Kevin Wright, now leading the human enhancement programs from a mobile laboratory that traveled between star systems, had made a discovery that would have sent shockwaves through the galactic community. "We're not just improving human capabilities," he explained to his team of volunteer test subjects. "We're discovering that humans were already capable of these modifications. Our biology is incredibly adaptable, more so than any known species. The alien technology just helps us realize potential we already had." This discovery led to enhancements that didn't require alien technology at all. Human scientists learned to trigger genetic modifications using techniques that were entirely human in origin. The results were soldiers who could adapt to any environment, survive injuries that would kill most aliens, and learn new skills at impossible speeds. Lieutenant Greg Turner, now serving as a deep reconnaissance specialist, embodied these new capabilities. His latest mission took him into the heart of hegemony territory, where he infiltrated the alien capital world itself. "Intelligence gathering complete," he transmitted from the planet's surface, having spent 3 weeks living among the aliens, without being detected. The hegemony government is in complete panic. They're calling emergency sessions every day to discuss the human threat. Greg's report revealed the true extent of hegemony fear. The aliens were not just losing military battles. They were losing their fundamental confidence in their own superiority. Entire hegemony colonies were requesting evacuation rather than risk encountering human forces. "They're describing us as an existential threat to galactic civilization," Greg continued. "But they're also expressing something like admiration. They can't understand how we've advanced so quickly, but they respect our capabilities." This grudging respect was evident in the intercepted communications between hegemony commanders. They had stopped referring to humans as primitives and had begun treating them as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Captain Helen Ross, now commanding a fleet of hybrid ships that patrolled the expanding human territory, received regular reports of hegemony forces withdrawing from border systems without engaging in combat. "They're afraid to fight us," she reported to Admiral Clark. "Our reputation has spread faster than our actual forces. Entire alien fleets are retreating based on rumors of human presence." But the most significant development was happening in liberated territory, where humans were establishing relationships with the species they had freed from hegemony rule. Dr. Alex Turner, working as a diplomatic advisor, discovered that these newly liberated species were eager to adopt human enhancement technologies. "They want to become like us," he reported to the human leadership. "Not just allies, but partners in this transformation we're undergoing. They see human enhancement as the key to preventing future oppression." The first mixed species enhancement programs began in secret laboratories throughout liberated space. Volunteers from 17 different species underwent modifications that combined their natural abilities with human adaptability. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. A Keth-variant soldier with human neural enhancements could predict enemy movements through a combination of telepathy and tactical analysis. A crystalline creator with human physical modifications could interface with technology while maintaining incredible resilience. These hybrid forces proved even more effective than pure human units. General Krexvoll received reports of these developments with something approaching despair. "The humans are not just defeating us," he transmitted to Hegemony Command. "They're converting other species to Dr. Steve Garcia's archaeological team worked frantically in the ruins of an ancient Keth-varian city, deep beneath the surface of their liberated homeworld. 2 years had passed since the war began, and humanity's relentless advance had forced the hegemony into increasingly desperate measures. But the discovery his team had made would change everything they thought they knew about the conflict. "The dating is confirmed," Dr. Garcia reported to the research team, his enhanced vision allowing him to see details in the ancient carvings that would have been invisible to baseline humans. "These ruins are over 50,000 years old, not 10,000 like the previous sites." Dr. Michelle Parker, working alongside him with her own array of enhancements, carefully translated the newer inscriptions they had uncovered. What she read made her enhanced heart race with possibilities. "Steve, look at this," she called excitedly. "These aren't just warnings about humans, they're records of actual contact. The Keth-varians met humans before, not during our current space age, but during humanity's first attempt at interstellar colonization. The implications were staggering. According to the carvings, humans had achieved spaceflight and begun exploring the galaxy over 50,000 years ago. Something had gone wrong, catastrophically wrong, and humanity had retreated back to Earth, somehow losing all memory of their previous achievements. The timeline matches Earth's archaeological records, Dr. Garcia realized as he processed the information through his enhanced neural networks. 50,000 years ago, human civilization underwent a massive collapse. We always thought it was climate change or disease, but these records suggest something else. The ancient Kethvarian texts described first contact with human explorers, who seemed friendly and peaceful. Trade relationships developed. Technology was exchanged. For several centuries, humans and Kethvarians worked together on joint projects throughout the galaxy. Then something had changed. The carvings became urgent, almost frantic in their warnings. The peaceful human explorers had encountered something that threatened not just their own survival, but the survival of every sapient species in the galaxy. They found weapons, Dr. Parker translated, her voice filled with awe and terror. Ancient weapons left behind by a species that had ruled the galaxy millions of years before. The humans tried to destroy these weapons, but using them corrupted everything they touched. According to the records, the ancient weapons didn't just destroy matter, they warped reality itself, creating zones where the normal laws of physics no longer applied. Worse, they seemed to have a corrupting influence on any species that used them, driving them to seek ever greater power until they ultimately destroyed themselves. The humans made a choice, Dr. Garcia read from the final set of carvings. Rather than risk becoming like the ancient destroyers, they used the weapons against themselves. They erased their own civilization to prevent the corruption from spreading. But the weapons had survived, hidden in secret locations throughout the galaxy. And now, according to intelligence reports reaching the archaeological team, the hegemony was preparing to use them against humanity. General Krexvoll stood before the massive artifact in the hidden chamber beneath the hegemony capital world. The device was beautiful and terrifying. A crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Are you certain this weapon will work against the humans?" he asked Chief Engineer Talvox, who was making final preparations for the device's activation. "The ancient records are clear," Talvox replied, though his voice carried uncertainty. "This reality disruptor can erase entire star systems from existence. It doesn't just destroy matter. It removes the quantum possibility that the matter ever existed." Krexvoll studied the weapon with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. Using it would mean admitting that the mighty hegemony empire could not defeat the humans through conventional means. But the alternative was watching their entire civilization crumble before an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with each battle. "Activate the weapon," he ordered. "Target the Sol system. If we cannot rule the humans, we will ensure they can never threaten anyone else." But even as the general gave the order, human forces were already moving to intercept the threat. Dr. Michelle Parker had transmitted her archaeological findings to Admiral Ryan Clark's fleet, which was positioned to strike at the hegemony capital. "Quantum. Disruption signatures detected," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the tactical station aboard Admiral Clark's flagship. "The aliens are powering up some kind of reality-warping device." Admiral Clark studied the sensor readings with his enhanced tactical processing capabilities. The energy patterns matched theoretical models that human scientists had developed for space-time manipulation weapons, devices so dangerous that Earth's governments had banned their development. "How long until the weapon reaches full power?" he asked. 18 hours, Lieutenant Foster replied. But Admiral, the energy reading suggests this thing could destroy our entire solar system. Dr. Kevin Wright, monitoring the situation from his mobile laboratory, had been analyzing captured hegemony data about the ancient weapons for months. What he had discovered provided humanity with their only hope of survival. The weapon has a critical vulnerability, he transmitted to Admiral Clark. It requires a stable quantum field to function. If we can introduce chaos into that field, the same kind of chaos we've been using against their computer systems, we might be able to turn the weapon against itself. Captain Dan Foster, now existing as a hybrid consciousness, distributed between his enhanced body and his ship's quantum computer core, volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. I can phase shift directly into the weapon's core chamber, he told Admiral Clark. My consciousness exists partially outside. Normal space-time. The weapon's effects might not be able to target me completely. The plan was desperate and likely suicidal, but it was humanity's only chance. Dan's ship, the UES Phoenix, had been modified with the most advanced phase shift technology humans had ever developed. If anyone could survive inside a reality-warping weapon, it would be him. As Dan prepared for his mission, the hegemony weapon continued building toward activation. The energy it generated was so intense that it began affecting space-time in the surrounding area. Stars flickered and went out, only to reappear in different positions. Planets aged thousands of years in seconds, then reverted to their original states. The weapon is approaching critical threshold, reported Chief Engineer Talvox, though his instruments were giving increasingly bizarre readings. Reality distortion is beginning to cascade through local space. General Krexvoll watched the readings, with growing unease. The weapon was more powerful than the ancient records had suggested, but it also seemed to be affecting areas far beyond its intended target. Can you contain the effect to the Sol system? He asked. Unknown, Talvox replied. Honestly, the quantum cascade is following gravitational fields in ways we don't understand. The distortion could spread throughout the galaxy, but it was too late to stop. The weapon had reached the point where shutting it down would cause it to explode, potentially destroying the entire hegemony capital system. They could only hope to aim it properly and pray that the destruction would be contained. Dan Foster's ship materialized inside the weapon's core chamber, a space that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. His enhanced senses, designed to process input from alien technology, struggled to make sense of an environment where the normal rules of existence no longer applied. I'm inside the weapon, he transmitted, though he wasn't sure if his communications were reaching the outside universe. Beginning quantum disruption sequence. The device Dan carried was the product of 2 years of intensive research by humanity's greatest minds. It was designed to introduce the same kind of chaotic variables that had proven so effective against hegemony computer systems, but scaled up to affect the fundamental structure of reality itself. As Dan activated the device, the ancient weapon began to respond in ways its creators had never intended. The stable quantum field that powered the reality disruptor suddenly became turbulent, filled with random fluctuations that cascaded through the weapon's crystalline matrix. "Warning!" shouted Chief Engineer Talvox as alarms began sounding throughout the hegemony control center. "The weapon is destabilizing! The quantum cascade is reversing!" Instead of projecting its destructive force outward toward human space, the weapon began to collapse in on itself. The reality distortion that should have erased the Sol system was instead consuming the weapon's own structure. General Krexvoll, watched in horror as the massive crystalline device began to phase in and out of existence. "Can we evacuate the planet?" "Negative," Talvox replied. "The quantum cascade has created a temporal loop. We're experiencing the same 30 seconds over and over again." But from Dan Foster's perspective inside the weapon, time was flowing normally. His consciousness, distributed across multiple quantum states by his enhancements, existed partially outside the temporal distortion. Phoenix to Admiral Clark, he transmitted through dimensions that folded back on themselves. "The weapon is contained, but I can't escape the—" Admiral Jack Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Liberation as it approached the hegemony homeworld of Hegemonia Prime. 3 years had passed since the war began, and the conflict that started with the destruction of Ceres Base was finally nearing its end. The dimensional rift created by the ancient weapon's destruction had allowed human forces to strike directly at the heart of the hegemony empire. But Jack was not here for revenge. Despite everything the hegemony had done, the innocent people killed at Ceres Base, the invasion of human space, the attempt to use reality-destroying weapons, humanity had chosen a different path than their enemies expected. "Admiral," reported Captain Lisa Wells from the tactical station, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from 17 hegemony fleet groups. They're requesting terms." Jack nodded, his enhanced neural implants processing multiple data streams simultaneously while his human conscience guided his decisions. "Transmit our standard response. Unconditional surrender followed by war crimes, tribunals, and reconstruction assistance. We're not here to destroy them. We're here to make sure this never happens again." The hegemony leadership gathered in their emergency bunker deep beneath the planet's surface, listened to the human terms with a mixture of relief and confusion. Acting Commander Zilvar, who had taken over after General Krexvol's death in the weapon explosion, struggled to understand human psychology. "They offer us survival," he said to the assembled council members. "But why?" "We destroyed their station. We invaded their space. We tried to erase their entire system from existence." Elder Corvex, the oldest member of the Hegemony Council, had lived through centuries of conquest and expansion. He had never encountered an enemy that offered mercy after achieving total victory. "Perhaps this is how they plan to humiliate us," he suggested. "Force us to live with our defeat, rather than granting us the honor of destruction." But Ambassador Katie Morgan, humanity's chief diplomatic representative, had a different message. When she arrived at the hegemony capital under a flag of truce, her appearance shocked the alien leaders. She was clearly enhanced beyond baseline human capabilities, but she still carried herself with the dignity and compassion that they had never expected from warriors. "We're not here to humiliate anyone," Katie explained to the assembled hegemony leadership. "We're here to ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else. The galaxy needs laws that protect developing civilizations from predatory empires." The alien leaders looked at each other in confusion. Acting Commander Zilvar spoke for all of them when he asked, "You could destroy us completely. Why do you offer mercy?" Katie smiled, and for a moment the enhanced warrior vanished, replaced by a simple human diplomat who genuinely wanted to build a better future. "Because mercy is what separates civilization from barbarism. Because someone has to break the cycle of conquest and revenge. And because we've learned what happens when power is used without wisdom." Dr. Steve Garcia's archaeological discoveries had fundamentally changed how humanity viewed its own enhancement programs. The knowledge that humans had walked this path before and had ultimately destroyed themselves served as a constant reminder of the dangers of unlimited power. We've established strict limits on all enhancement procedures, Dr. Michelle Parker explained to the Galactic Council during the peace negotiations. No modifications that reduce empathy or ethical reasoning. No enhancements that separate the modified individual from baseline humanity. And absolutely no research into reality-altering weapons. Elder Vashati of the Creators studied the human proposals with fascination. The species that had seemed so primitive just 3 years ago was now demonstrating wisdom that some civilizations never achieved. These restrictions you place on yourselves, she observed, they will limit your potential power significantly. Good, replied Ambassador Katie Morgan. Power without limits destroyed our ancestors. We won't make the same mistake. The peace, terms that humanity presented to the galaxy, were unlike anything in recorded history. Rather than demanding tribute or territory, humans insisted on fundamental changes to galactic law that would protect all species from aggressive expansion. Captain Paul Wright, now serving as the head of the new Galactic Protection Protocol, outlined the key provisions during the final peace conference on Nexus Prime. First, any attack on a developing civilization by an advanced species will be considered a crime against galactic peace, subject to intervention by all council members. Second, no species may claim sovereignty over another species' territory without clear consent from the inhabitants. Third, the use of planet-killing weapons or reality-altering devices is banned absolutely, with violations subject to immediate military response. Fourth, all species have the right to develop at their own pace without interference, guidance, or protection that they have not specifically requested. The hegemony representatives listened to these terms with growing amazement. They had expected demands for resources, slaves, or territorial concessions. Instead, the humans were insisting on laws that would limit everyone's ability to exploit weaker civilizations. You realize, Acting Commander Zilvar pointed out, these laws will prevent you from building an empire of your own. You could rule the galaxy if you wanted to. That's exactly why we don't want to, Admiral Jack Sullivan replied from his position at the human delegation table. Empires are built on the suffering of others. We've seen what that leads to. The vote on the human proposals was unanimous. Even species that had previously supported the hegemony's expansion recognized that the galaxy needed new rules to prevent future wars. But the most significant changes were happening within human space itself. The enhancement technologies that had made human victory possible were being carefully regulated to ensure they served humanity rather than replacing it. Dr. Kevin Wright, despite his own extensive modifications, led the effort to establish ethical guidelines for human enhancement. We must never forget that we're still human, he told his research teams. The moment we start believing we're something better than human is the moment we become something worse. The liberated species that had fought alongside humanity were offered the choice of continuing their enhancement programs or returning to their natural state. Most chose to keep some modifications while abandoning others, finding a balance that preserved their essential nature while giving them the tools to defend themselves. The Kethvarians, whose ancient warnings had started the entire crisis, chose to serve as historians and advisors for the new galactic order. Elder Sithvar worked closely with human scholars to ensure that the lessons of the past were not forgotten. The cycle of rise and fall has repeated throughout galactic history, he explained to a gathering of species representatives. Advanced civilizations achieve great power, use that power unwisely, and ultimately destroy themselves. Humanity has the opportunity to break that cycle. The enforcement of the new galactic laws fell primarily to human forces, but not because they sought to dominate other species. The enhanced human military had proven itself capable of defeating any conventional force, making them the only realistic choice for galactic peacekeeping. Captain Helen Ross commanded one of the patrol fleets that monitored the galaxy for violations of the new laws. Her ships carried mixed crews of humans and aliens, all working together to maintain the peace that had been so difficult to achieve. "Contact bearing 327, reported Lieutenant Greg Turner from his sensor station. "Looks like a Krillian trade convoy under attack by raiders." "All ships, move to intercept," Helen ordered. "Let's remind these pirates that the galaxy has new rules." The battle was brief and decisive. The raiders, expecting to prey on defenseless merchants, found themselves facing ships and crews that had learned their trade fighting the hegemony. Within minutes, the pirate vessels were either destroyed or fleeing toward the galactic rim. "This is Captain Ross of the Galactic Protection Force," Helen transmitted to the rescued convoy. "You're safe now. Please report any other incidents to the nearest patrol station." These interventions became routine throughout the galaxy. Species that had previously lived in fear of stronger neighbors now knew that help was available. The galaxy was becoming a safer place for everyone, but perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. The species that had been forced to become warriors was slowly learning to be peaceful again, though they retained the capability to fight when necessary. Dr. Alex Turner, working in a research station that orbited peacefully between human and former hegemony space, studied the long-term effects of the war on human psychology. What he found was encouraging. "We're maintaining our enhancements, but we're also maintaining our humanity," he reported to Earth's leadership. "The modifications haven't changed who we are at our core. We're still the same species that values freedom, protects the innocent, and believes in giving everyone a chance to live their own lives." The former hegemony territories had been divided among their liberated subjects, with human forces serving as temporary administrators until local governments could be established. The transition was remarkably smooth, partly because humans had no interest in permanent occupation. "We want to go home," Admiral Jack Sullivan explained to a gathering of former hegemony worlds. "We want to explore space, build new settlements,